members in the leadership of Repairs of the Bridge, and also some members of the Poor People's Campaign that are coming through to El Paso from many parts of the nation. Many of them travel as far as from Ohio and other states to be here with us. There are very specific conditions why we're gathering here today. I mean, many of you know the ongoing story about the border. I mean, we have the issues of the conditions at the detention centers. We're just outside of one of them. There is a hunger strike inside this ICE processing center because of the conditions. And that is not new. We know that families, children, mothers, and fathers are detained, are in jail, just looking for a better life. And they are in conditions where there is no water, there is no food, there is no medication. And so today, the action is going to be concentrated at that ICE detention center. And we're going to move in a minute, a little bit later, in that direction. And we're going to explain what we're going to be doing. The other issue that we want to talk about today, it is the fact that many of these refugees are being sent back to Mexico and to Juarez. Yesterday we came from Mexico. The delegation went to Mexico, and we saw families there in these refugee camps, again, with conditions of no legal support, no family members, no food, no jobs, and in the midst of violence. Up to today, there's a report that 9 refugees and immigrants had died because of the violence in Mexico.
That's right.
So, what is our ask? Obviously, we don't want families detained any longer.
That's right.
But also, we don't want them to be sent to Mexico.
That's right.
Because Mexico is not a safe country. I think we need to be very clear about it. But let me tell you, how do we want to get there? Today, the action also is to bring attention to these issues and to actually get the U.S. Congress involved. We are asking congressional leaders to bring congressional field hearings to the border.
Yes.
They need to come and they need to listen the testimonies of all of the families, key stakeholders, about the conditions we are suffering at the border. Besides what I mentioned, you need to know we have border walls being constructed. We have criminalization of immigrants, militarization of the border. Congress, they need to act. We need to bring members of Congress to formally do a congressional hearing. And also, we're asking Congress to pass legislation. There's an important piece of the legislation today that has been filed, that passed committee, that was filed by Congresswoman Escobar here from El Paso.
That's right.
That brings about accountability and oversight to the institutions. It creates human rights mechanisms. It creates mandating reports of migrant deaths. We need to bring accountability in human rights, and that legislation is going to go to discussion in the House very soon after recess, and we want the House and the Senate to pass this legislation about border accountability. So those are some of the issues why we're coming together, both local and national leaders. And now let me pass it over to Reverend Barber.
It must be very clear, and thank you, Brother Garcia, that we are here in unity. We came by invitation from the local community, no longer to look at what we merely saw on TV or to see reports, but to come and see it for ourselves. So 3 or 4 of us are going to respond to how we're going to join with them on meeting this agenda. We are here on our moral and our religious and our constitutional authority. It should be clear, we have seen a glimpse, just a glimpse of the horrible conditions. Just yesterday, we saw an American child, a citizen of this country, who is in a refuge camp because this country, the Trump administration, will not allow his mother here. A child, some 5 years old. We see all of this connected. The same forces that are caging mothers and fathers and children and making people drink out of toilets. And we heard a testimony last night of children pulling out shoestrings, thinking about killing themselves because of the pressure. The same forces that are doing that are suppressing the vote in this country. The same forces are denying living wages and denying health care and denying ecological justice. The same forces are pushing a faulty theological position that says as long as you're against gay people, against women, and against and for guns and for prayer in the school and for tax cuts, that is a godly way. The same people against the people here are pushing a war economy. We see all of these interlocking injustices, and we are raising a moral intersectional fusion movement against it. All of us, every color, every race, every creed, every sexuality, we are very clear. We also have come here to uplift the agenda that is important to the local struggle. We believe in nationalizing local struggles. A movement is not national because you have a post office box in Washington, D.C. A movement is national when that movement at the local level gets national attention. And it becomes a way of seeing and viewing the world. We have come here today and yesterday and the day before because we are committing after today's action to go back to the halls of Congress and demand that this bill be passed and demand that there be full congressional hearings here on the border. We have come to bring attention to the border. We are leaving to go bring the border to Washington, D.C. That's right. We also are here today because we are going, as we call for these, and I want you to hear this, full hearings. Full congressional hearing. We want Republicans and Democrats here. We dare them to see what we've seen and hear what we've heard, and to still be callous in their heart. And if they are, it will tell us really who they are. We're going to put pressure when we leave here on a pressure point that must be pushed. Senator McConnell. Because if Senator McConnell would join with Congresswoman Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi, they could stop this stuff. We are going to be a massive registering people for the movement and people to vote. And today we are going to ask for a pastoral visit. Those are our members of the human family. The people that will come behind me will tell you who they are, who they represent, and the numbers. We're going to ask to go in and visit and pray with the people who are on the hunger strike. Whether we're allowed or not, we have come to make that prophetic witness. And lastly, make no mistake, today is a beginning working with Border Network and the human rights. We are coming back. We are building for that coming back. Moral movement is never about moral movement is never about a moment. It's about a movement. And we are committed to a long-term movement of driving the nation's narrative and the attention around these issues. We demand an end to child detention. We demand that all refugees seeking asylum be granted due process. We demand equal protection under the law. We demand the preservation of human rights. We demand a termination of the Remain in Mexico program. We demand an end to family separation. And we demand an end to the militarization of our border. And we demand an end to the evil and the injustice and the inhumanity that we are seeing taking place on our border in our name. No longer will it happen with our silence.
Amen. Amen.
Put it over, put it across the other way. We'll come to you. Give my chair.
We are here as people of faith. My tradition is Christian. My denomination, the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. Can't hear it? There we go. We are here as leaders of faith to stand with our siblings here locally. my denomination, the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, at its biennial General Assembly, passed 2 resolutions. One, to declare that the act of aiding humans in distress should not be criminalized. So those of us who are clergy, anyone who has a faith tradition who would be in a position to pray with, to bring food, to bring water, to pick people up on the side of the road, simply to offer human aid, that those activities should not be criminalized. Clergy are being blacklisted, arrested, and really traumatized and threatened across the U.S. So I want to make that point, that it's so important, and I speak as a Christian leader, that our ability to serve and work with human beings is an expression of our faith. It cannot be criminalized. And secondly, we believe in our ministry around the world as a denomination of accompanying people, of not setting others' agendas, but listening to the needs of people on the ground. And so I am personally delighted to stand with Brother Francisco and Fernando and the Border Network, the preparers of the breach, to be here. We will be mobilizing to come back for the hearing. We will be mobilizing to be in D.C. We stand with this. This is our human family. And as Christians, I cannot be silent. And those of you who are Christians, you cannot be silent.
We are also releasing a joint letter to the Congress demanding these hearings. We're already reaching out to the Speaker, even now, while they're on recess. And we're also going to be releasing a special letter to all of the presidents of major media saying they need to come here and show the American public what's really going on. Rabbi Jacobs, would you tell folk who you are and your endorsement of what Border Network is doing?
My name is Rabbi Rick Jacobs. I am the leader of the Reformed Jewish community here in North America. Almost 2 million people who stand today as part of this network of faith and commitment. With policies that are trying to tear our families and our country apart, we're standing here today across faith lines, across state lines, but united deeply in a common belief. This is not the first time in history that a cruel leader is trying to wreak havoc on a society. I remember in the biblical tradition there was a leader called Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was afraid of the children. Pharaoh wanted all those little babies thrown in the river. But there were people of courage, and they stood up and would not fall into line. Those people are related to each of us, because we will not be silent while the cries of those children, the cries of those migrants and asylum seekers, the cries of those who are part of our human family, those cries not only reach us, and they do today, and they enter our hearts, and they animate us to be more active, but those cries we learn in Exodus chapter 2, verse 23, those cries reached the Holy One. And the Holy One said, no, not on my watch. No, not for my people. Not for any of my children. And so we are here because of our faith, and we're going to go back to our communities with our faith, with a sense of our connection and our responsibility to those here on the front lines, on the border. I was part of that small group that went across the border yesterday, and the stories that we heard and the pain that was shared broke open not only our hearts, but our limited sense of what we can and must do. This is urgent, this is moral, this is us together standing, and we will not be stopped.
Amen. So just a point of information, we have 5 minutes before the next bus is coming. We have 5 minutes before the next bus is coming so we can get started. I want to ask the Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, to give her response to Brother Garcia and our uniting with the work here on the ground.
It is powerful to be here in El Paso, to be here with hundreds of folks from El Paso and Texas, from faith communities and impacted communities across this nation. Because as we know, El Paso is really the belly of the beast. And indeed, this system is a beast. caging children, separating families, denying people health care and housing, suppressing votes, hurting democracy, and spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes.
Hundreds of millions of dollars on trying to pit us against each other.
That's right.
On trying to feed us a lie that there isn't enough.
That's right.
That's right.
When those billions of dollars could secure health care for everyone.
Yes.
Could secure education for everyone here in El Paso and across this nation. So it is an honor to be taking action together. Dr. King, in the last year of his life, said, "The poor of this nation live in a cruelly unjust society." We're seeing that injustice here. If they can be helped to take action together, they will be a new and unsettling force in our complacent national life. Well, people are taking action here in El Paso. Families going on hunger strike in this detention center is taking action. Folks demanding a congressional hearing in the border. A full hearing at the border is taking action together. And then bring in the border to take some more action together. In McConnell's office, in the halls of Congress, and across this nation, saying we will not be divided anymore. An injury to one is an injury to all, and our families are being hurt. Our families are being killed. Our families are being starved. Here in Texas, in Mexico, in Guatemala, all over this world, and across the rest of this country. So we indeed stand with folk here. Commit ourselves to a long haul of struggle. We'll be coming back. This is just the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I need everybody that will raise their hand, everybody who will join us wherever you have to push until there is a full congressional hearing here on the border. I need to know the people who have come here today but will answer our call to go to the halls of Congress and do their, to pray in, sit in, stand in, whatever it takes. Can I see your hands?
Whatever it takes.
I need those that will push for this legislation to hit the floor of the House to be passed, and then demand that it be passed in the Senate as well and signed. And I need those of you that know that if no legislation is signed, we believe in the legislation of the Almighty God, of the Spirit of God, that says we have to have an eternal dissatisfaction and an eternal fight against injustice. That is our calling. That is who we are. So we're getting ready now. When we go where we're going in the streets, there's going to be a program there. Imam Solomon is going to give us a word there with some others. What did I say? We all mixed up. That way, this is fusion. I'm Imam today, and he's Rabbi today, and Jacob's is Reverend today. We're going to mix it all up. Because when they come for us, they're coming for all of us. But if they come, as somebody said, if they call for us, we're going to call for them back. We all together. We all together, one family. We're going to do a program there. There's an action the clergy are going to take. We ask everybody to be disciplined. The children are going to lead us first. Are there any questions from the media? Are there any questions from the media? All right. Okay. All right. Bishop Pearson, yes, sir. Would you know how to pray universalist in all those ways? Would you bless us just with a prayer before we take this walk to that detention center?
Sure. Eternal God, our Father and our Mother, we're grateful today for the energy in this place and this space in human history, in America, and here in El Paso. For every family, every father, every mother, every little boy, a little girl, every hurting and broken-hearted human being, we reach out by faith and touch them with our spirits, with our hearts, with our love, with our mind, and with our prayer. We know that you're bigger than any issue that we face on this planet. And you're in the midst of all of us, and our collective energy is saying yes to your will, your way, and your wonderful power to make a difference in this world. We're here not just to make a difference, but to make the world different. And we do it by the nature and name of all that's good in God. Thank you, Lord, as we move forward in you and together. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Please pay attention to the marshals. Don't bunch up. If they ask us to go in lines of 5, give some space between each line. We're going to line up now. The children are already ready. If those who made the initial call, Imam Solomon, Reverend Terry Owens, Rabbi Jacobs, Reverend Jonathan Wilson Hargrove, Bishop Pearson, Dr. Theo Harris, and Fernando, and Robin and you, if we will come right up to the front area where we're going to be following the children. Which way do you want us to go?
We're going this way. Everybody 2 by 2s. The road is kind of thin, so we're going to be in 2 by 2.
We're going to be behind the... Yeah. We're going to start out across 5. Wait a minute, are they moving already? Oh, that's all right. If they're gone, they're gone. All right. Come here, Clergy. Clergy right in here. Clergy on me. Clergy on me. Are they gone yet? We need everybody else to move behind the line. Yeah. Move behind the line.
Por aquí. Caminen los niños.
There was a Orthodox rabbi in New Orleans.
Children first. We will be behind.
So people used to confuse us with each other.
Now we can step to the side. We're going to start by 5. And then
Well, us, just the 5 calls. Everybody else can do your 2.
Yep.
Just these 5.
Everybody else can do
Get hooked up, y'all, so they can. Let me get in the middle because this cane. Let me get in the middle, me mom. Now we hooked up. We need a sister up here.
Will you come over on this side, please? Thank you.
Keep it spread out. If y'all need to hold hands, it's fine, whichever way works.
Bishop, the ground is about to peak down.
Okay.
You're okay.
Come on. Spread out. Give me some swing my leg. Now I'm gonna drop off from y'all in a minute. Catch the car, okay? All right, I'll see y'all there.
Would you like to say something really quick to our viewers? We're live on TV.
Can you walk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing here today?
Yeah, well, this is a large community gathering. We have members of our community at the border, immigrant families, joined with national leaders, faith leaders, civil rights leaders coming from across the country to ask for two things and denounce two things. The first one is the conditions of families in detention. Here in El Paso, right now, there are some refugees in hunger strike because they've been detained indefinitely, but also in very bad conditions. I mean, we know, we had reported that before, that there is no legal support, no food, no medication. So those are the conditions they are at. So we're denouncing that. But also, the other policy that is at the same time that we're denouncing is many of these refugees are being sent back to Mexico in the program that is called Remain in Mexico Migration Protection Protocol. In Mexico, they don't have anything. They don't have legal support, they don't have relatives. But also Mexico, in Juarez specifically, is a very dangerous city, a violent city. So we're sending refugees to violent situations in Mexico. 7 of them, 7 immigrants and refugees, had died in the last few months in Mexico. So we want to stop that, and at the same time we're calling for Congress to intervene. We want congressional briefings at the border, full congressional hearings at the border, and also to pass legislation to make this institution, Border Patrol, ICE, and others accountable to human rights and for the Constitution of the United States.
And can you speak to the legality of everybody internationally having the right to seek asylum and how this administration is essentially breaking these laws of asylum?
Well, two things are happening that are important to mention. The first thing is that the United States is indeed violating international law by rejecting asylum seekers. But the second thing is the United States, in Trump specifically, the Trump administration is violating the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, especially the equal protection of the law clause. And that clause that says that if you're here in the United States, you have legal rights and you need to be protected, not to be sent back to Mexico. And both of those things, this administration is violating.
And for viewers really quickly watching, can you tell us your name, your organization, and where people can find your work?
My name is Fernando Garcia. I'm the founder and the executive director of Border Network for Human Rights. They can go to bnhr.org or they can call us at our office, 915-577-0724.
Fernando, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So if you're watching, we're live now in El Paso, Texas, where Reverend Barber asked for people of conscience and religious leaders. He put out a call for people to come to the border. And we're here in front of a detention center where people have gone on hunger strikes. And so I would say there's a few hundred people at this location, and right now people are marching peacefully in silence towards the entrance. And Reverend Barber said that he is going to ask that religious clergy be let in to speak and to pray with the migrants who are currently being imprisoned. And so we just heard from the director of the Border Network for Human Rights, who has taken a lead on this march or this action with the Barber campaign. I spoke to a local journalist earlier today who he was born in Juarez and spent also a lot of time in El Paso, and he was telling me that El Paso and Juarez are home for him. And I asked him, has he seen a change since Trump took office, or maybe even since before Trump took office, because we know he ran his campaign on building a wall. And he said, absolutely. Trump is stoking fear. Trump has created this crisis at the border. He said before, there was not, for example, concertina wall at the border. People have lived peacefully for decades. He said things changed after 9/11, but it's a lot worse, even compared to how it was after 9/11. It's a lot worse now that Trump is in office. So I'm going to pan over because this is, you can't really see in here. You can kind of peek through. When I peek in, what I can see are Border Patrol vehicles. Actually, you might be able to see more. So there's buses, there's Border Patrol vans, and temporary housing. If you're watching, leave us a comment. Like this, please share. Let us know your thoughts on today. So this is a nonviolent direct action, and there will be people risking arrest. The Barber campaign held multiple meetings before this action and did a really good job of keeping everything under wraps. So at this point, who attended multiple meetings, I'm not exactly sure what the direct action will be with people risking arrest. We will find out shortly. You want me to?
Right, this is the corner that we're heading to. Y'all have to move back. And then we're going in the street. We're going in the street. And turn.
So marshals right now are closing the street. They're letting one Telemundo in. They're letting one media vehicle in, but it looks to me like they're about to close the street. So there's a few vehicles entering. If you can see the sign, it says U.S. property, no trespassing, Border Patrol training, and recruitment office down the road. So at the front of the march are mothers and children.
It must be very clear, and thank you, Brother Garcia, that we are here in unity. We came by invitation from the local community, no longer to look at what we merely saw on TV or to see reports, but to come and see it for ourselves. So 3 or 4 of us are going to respond to how we're going to join with them on meeting this agenda. We are here on our moral and our religious and our constitutional authority. It should be clear, we have seen a glimpse of the horrible conditions. Just yesterday, we saw an American child, a citizen of this country, who is in a refuge camp because this country, the Trump administration, will not allow his mother here. A child, some 5 years old. We see all of this connected. The same forces that are caging mothers and fathers and children and making people drink out of toilets. And we heard a testimony last night of children pulling out shoestrings, thinking about killing themselves because of the pressure. The same forces that are doing that are suppressing the vote in this country. The same forces are denying living wages and denying health care and denying ecological justice. The same forces are pushing a faulty theological position that says as long as you're against gay people, against women, and against and for guns and for prayer in the school and for tax cut, that is a godly way. The same people against the people here are pushing a war economy. We see all of these interlocking injustices, and we are raising a moral intersectional fusion movement against it. All of us, every color, every race, every creed, every sexuality, we are very clear. We also have come here to uplift the agenda that is important to the local struggle. We believe in nationalizing local struggles. A movement is not national because you have a post office box in Washington, D.C. A movement is national when that movement at the local level gets national attention. And it becomes a way of seeing and viewing the world. We have come here today and yesterday and the day before because we are committing after today's action to go back to the halls of Congress and demand that this bill be passed and demand that there be full congressional hearings here on the border. We have come to bring attention to the border. We are leaving to go bring the border to Washington, D.C. And we are requesting a pastoral visit to visit our members of the human family who are on hunger strike. We're asking to be let in to see them. We are their pastors. We are clergy leaders. They are our members. And we're asking that you would allow us in. Rabbi Jacobs.
Those who are inside need, we all do, the loving pastoral care that God gives to each of us, and we would like to extend. We're here to bring blessing, to bring the love and care of this community and our faiths. We ask that you invite us in so that we could bring that healing and that love to those inside.
We know that those of you who are incarcerating them, many of you are doing your job, but it's time for you to think deeper. We call on you to have a heart.
Yes.
These are your brothers and sisters. Do not participate in this modern day evil and slavery. Free yourself from it. Yeah. Amen.
We only know them through their numbers. We wish to know their names. We wish to hear their stories from them, because their story is tied to our story.
Yes.
We wish to enter and to comfort and console. We come here to bring them peace because we are not at peace so long as they are incarcerated. We come here to comfort them because we are not comforted until we are able to comfort them. We come here to show them love because they need to know that on this side of the border, It's not just the cruelty that they have experienced thus far. We're here in a pastoral capacity. Let us in to witness them. Let us in to comfort them. Let us in to witness them.
Yes. Terry? Dr. Owens, is she here? Right behind.
We ask that we be allowed simply to do the work of care that clergy and all faith traditions are called to be with those who are ill, to be with those who are lonely, to be with those who are imprisoned, which is what these children and families are. They are imprisoned. And so we simply ask for the right, which is guaranteed to us by the Constitution of the United States, free exercise of our religious traditions and faith. We simply seek to care for them, to be pastoral, to encourage their hearts and their spirits, even as we fight outside these walls for their justice and liberation.
Liz?
Jesus Christ, who I follow, when he went to his hometown, said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to bring good news to the poor, bind up the brokenhearted, and release to the captives." We're asking you who are holding the keys to these gates, that you open them up and let us come in.
Yes.
So that we can have a pastoral visit with those that have been locked inside, those who have found it within themselves to have a hunger strike, to be with those people, and to be with people all over this state and nation. So please let us in.
Jonathan?
Hello, I'm here as a Baptist minister in the New Testament. I and all Christians are instructed to love one another as family. In Hebrews 13, it says we have to welcome strangers to us, because some people in doing that have welcomed angels. And Hebrews is very clear to go on to say that we have to do that by visiting those who are incarcerated. Yes. So we have come in our pastoral duty to visit those who are incarcerated in this place, and we ask to be allowed entry.
Bishop, you?
We just called to say we love you. No. We just called to say how much we care. We just called to say we love you, and we mean it from the bottom of our hearts. Jesus is quoted to have said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me, not make them suffer when they come." And we are Americans, we're human sacred activists, we care. I'm from that good old-fashioned Pentecostal tradition that represent millions of people who care. We want you to know, both those who are incarcerated in this prison, suffering, and those of you who are licensed and paid to keep them there. We care about your hearts, the darkness that may be there, the struggle that you may have. Let us come in and reach over you with our hearts, love you, and pastor you for this brief moment.
I want you to know that one of the goals was that the detention center would close down. We didn't close it. They closed us when they saw us coming. Your very presence, they closed the door. But while they may close us out, they cannot close out the Spirit of God.
Right.
And so right now, here, we want to have a blessing for those who are hungering and thirsting on the inside physically. Because they hunger and thirst outside for justice and righteousness. And how many of us join them in that thirst? That thirst.
Yes.
Would you reach forward and put your hands on somebody forward until everybody's touching somebody and touching the fire? And repeat after me. This water has come from struggles all over the country.
This water has come from struggles all over the country.
Where people are thirsting. where people are thirsting for righteousness, and for justice. In the name of all that is holy. We believe that this water, poured out from many bottles, poured into one bottle, like the many streams of our lives, and the streams of our struggles, whether it be against racism, poverty, ecological devastation, the war economy, the false narrative of religious nationalism, whatever the pain is, the lack of health care, the lack of living wages, people being locked in cages, human beings, resegregation of our schools, hurting of our native brothers and sisters, all those streams are coming together and forming a mighty rushing river of justice right here and right now. As others form those streams and form that rushing water, and God anointed it. Let it be so now. But we cannot come here and not also in the authority of love and justice condemn what is going on. We condemn the modern day slavery. We cast down the injustice. We condemn and call evil and unjust the caging of people, the making people drink from toilets, the refusal to even give them a toothbrush. It is condemned everywhere throughout the Holy Writ. Mistreatment of the poor, mistreatment of the stranger. It is to mistreat the prophets of God, the anointed of God, the angels of God. You're holding angels in this place, but you will not hold them forever. We join them now. And not only do we bring condemnation, but we bring hope. It doesn't have to be this way. America, turn around. America, repent. America, stop. America, change your ways. So we pour out this water now. And declare this place a sacred place. You would not let us touch them with our hands. So we touch them by the Spirit. Inside of your detention center. And we call that which is not as though it were. The gate shall open. The wall shall be torn down. Our brothers and sisters shall be free. We will have the strength to fight. We do believe in the mighty rushing water. It is so. We are baptized afresh. In the rivers of justice. In the rivers of love. It is so. 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 Amen. Wow. Amen. Let us step back where everybody is, and our speakers will speak to our hearts, for we need our dispatched to do more work. Amen. Wow.
Clear space.
We can get folks just keep backing up, following the marshals. We're going to make some space for our speakers to gather on Maddox. Keep making some space, please. Monsignor Banuelos, if you could come forward. You are our first speaker.
Oh, look at the people. Oh, look at the people. Oh, look at the people. Look at all the people. people they've denied. Oh,
Yeah.
look at the people. Oh,
Keep on pushing.
look at the people. Oh, look at the people. Look at all the people they deny. They're caging our children, and what a shame. Look at all the people they deny. We came to bear witness in freedom's name. Look at all the people they deny.
I'm singing.
Oh, look at the people
In the street, everybody.
Oh, look at the people. Oh, look at the people. Look at all the people they deny. Look at all the people they deny. Look at all the people they deny. Look at people they deny. Look at all the people they deny. Look at all the people they deny. Look at all the people they deny. At all the people they deny.
We need the speakers now, and we want to ask one thing. Can we have some of the children to come here right in front before we begin? Y'all, I need you to lift up, if you can, what does the Lord require? If you can. Come right here. We need some children. All of us on the side, if you're not speaking, move into the street. Where some, just let some of the everybody move in the street so that the children can be seen. They got the clothes.
Can everybody over here go? Marshals, can y'all help everybody move into the streets, please? Everybody into the streets. We're leaving from this.
Everybody.
We're moving into the streets.
Now we need y'all to move to the right. Everybody will open up to the center.
This is the media. We need you all behind this line. If you can stand right behind
can
this
you all
line.
move over to the side, Shane?
We need you all behind this line.
Shane,
Thank
this
you.
way.
Media, we need y'all.
We need y'all to move that way. Yeah, y'all stay right here. Just move over. Move over.
This one. They not behind this. Not behind this.
Quickly. We've got, listen up, maintain discipline. We got people holding the street, so we got to move. The speakers are going to do 2 minutes because they're speaking to the nation, not just us. Before that happens, the children, if you see a child beside you, put your hand on it. Come here, baby. Stand right here with me. Come here with this flag. Come right here, baby. Somebody help me with my translation.
Andrew.
It's good there. Come this way.
Andrew's right here. He can help. One of our young marshals.
All right.
Come
Yara.
on, young people.
Everybody, sing this to the nation as we bring judgment.
Sorry, you're in my shot.
Yeah.
What does the Lord require of thee? What doth the Lord require of thee? But to do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with God. Woe unto thee who issue oppressive decrees.
That's Isaiah 10.
They should do justly,
love, mercy, walk humbly with God.
Now I want you to look at the sign behind you. One of the reasons we came was to close down the detention. We didn't have to, with just your presence, they shut it down. And nobody's going in, nobody's being detained, just by you being here. Imagine what's going to happen when we mobilize everywhere and in Washington, D.C. The power of it. Now each person coming is going to give us 2 minutes, their best 2 minutes, as we speak not just to you, but to the nation. We are speaking to the nation now. And this is the time, if they say something that you like, for you to holler and scream and say amen, say shalom, say assalamu alaikum, so whatever you feel like saying, but say something to the truth. I know we had an order, but I want to invite our imam first to come. He's been so gracious, and then our father to come, Father Garcia to come. And then the order from there.
This media line, sir, is back there? I'm leaving. Media line, okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you all. I want you to repeat after me. They are not numbers.
They are not numbers.
They have names.
They have names.
They have stories.
They have stories.
And their story is our story. They are not numbers.
They are not numbers.
They have names.
They have names.
They have stories.
They have stories.
Their stories are our story.
Our stories.
Dear brothers and sisters, you came here because you said that we are not all right. That while our brothers and sisters sleep on concrete floors without showers and toothbrushes and commit themselves to hunger strikes, that we will not sit in the comfort of our homes and eat our food and drink comfortably and wait for the president to tweet something else to divert our attention.
Hold on, don't y'all go anywhere. I know it because of our commitment. Where's Garcia? We're going to still do what we got to do. We just need to move to the sidewalks. We need to move to the sidewalks.
Marshals, please help everybody move to the sidewalk.
And do not go anywhere, just to the sidewalk.
Please stay. Marshals, help everyone move to the sidewalk.
Hey, we're going to have to ask y'all to...
On the side, on the side. Oh, at 12. Permanent side of 12. Okay. So it's from 10 to 12. Okay,
yeah, everyone
so
to
we
the
just get on the sidewalk.
The sidewalk is okay.
Let me see that.
To the sidewalk.
On the side, on the side.
You all on the sidewalks. Don't go, just stay on the sidewalk.
On the sidewalk.
On the sidewalk, y'all. Up on the sidewalk, so out of the street. We need you out of the street and out of the entrance. Thank you. On the sidewalk.
Let us move down, move down. Everybody move down some. Get on the sidewalk. Yeah, keep moving down.
Okay.
Keep moving down.
Let's all keep moving down and make more room on the sidewalks if we can keep moving down.
Cuidado, mijo, cuidado. Ahí se más campo en las banquetas. Keep moving down, please, y'all. Vamos a hacer más campo en las banquetas.
Keep moving, please.
The sidewalk, please.
Keep going, there are more people behind.
They are not numbers.
On the sidewalk. On the sidewalk. Everybody on the sidewalk.
Their story is our story. When we stand in front of here, we say without any hesitation that we do call to abolish ICE.
Yes.
How many of you think that ICE should be abolished?
Yes.
But let me tell you something, dear brothers and sisters. We're not just calling for ICE to be abolished. We're calling for the premise of ICE to be abolished.
Right.
We're not just calling for these detention centers to be shut down. We're calling for the premise of these detention centers to be shut down.
That's right.
If you think that these children in here who are on hunger strikes, who have come here looking for an opportunity with their families and cannot contextualize the tragedy they've already been through, if you think that they're more dangerous than the crooks that are putting them in these prisons and profiting from them in these prisons, then you need to look deeper. We need to look deeper and ask ourselves why they are in this situation in the first place. And as we are separated from them physically, we refuse to let our hearts be separated from them. Because we understand that they have not just been separated from their families, but they have been separated from the human family.
That's right.
And the human family that is here says no more.
No more.
No more children being detained.
No more children
families
being detained.
No more of this.
No more.
And we will be back.
And
we will be engaged, whether we are in our homes or whether we are in the streets or whether we're in front of the centers or the camps. We will stay engaged, and we will take this fight to DC, to every single one of these detention centers, every single one of these slave holding centers. We will go to each and every single one of them. When they open one, we will find it and we will stand in front of it, and we will make sure that we will continue to disrupt until their lives can resume in peace.
Right.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you all.
Thank you, Imam. We need everyone off the street, please, y'all. Thank you. And now we will hear from Gabriela Castaneda from Border Network for Human Rights. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to be here. My name is Gabriela Castaneda. I'm the Communications Director for Border Network for Human Rights. First, I want to tell you that this is not a detention center. This is a concentration camp. This place robs people of their dignity, rights, peace, family, and life. Every minute, hour, and day that people spend here is used to its fullest by this administration, whose message for these families is very clear. Poor immigrant communities are being told by the president that they're not welcome here. Children and families are being put in cages, tents, left in the cold without blankets, food, water, or medicine. Lives continue to be lost. Families continue to be separated. Communities continue to be divided. The goal of this administration is put one against the other.
That's right.
When I heard the stories of these families and the horror they went through, the unspeakable abuses that they suffered, I could feel the pain in their voice. The trauma was deep in their minds, and the hope had left their hearts, and I believed them. I believed their stories not only because they were crying and barely able to talk to me, but because I've been there. I've been in these concentration camps. I'm a former undocumented immigrant, and when I was apprehended and sent to these places, I was also denied of food, water, and a dignified treatment. We are living very dark times. We have seen the devastating effects that these concentration camps and anti-immigrant policies can have in our communities. We are seeing the effects of a fabricated crisis followed by a fake declaration of emergency pronounced by a fake president. What is not fake is the criminalization of immigrants, the loss of lives, the drownings of our people in the rivers, the culture of abuse in law enforcement agencies, the dehumanization and the moral crisis in this nation. But there is one more thing that is not fake. It's very real, and it is good. The movement is real. Our voices are real. Our stories are real. We are here as part of the resistance. We are dealing with the Nazis of this time, but they will have to deal with the Rosa Parks, the Martin Luther King, the Anne Frank, and the Cesar Chavez of this time. Thank you.
We got to honor our commitment to the movement on the ground, of which this sister is a part of, and she understands. We got two quick speakers as Rabbi, and Carlos. We need to do these quickly so that we can move back. We are honoring the movement on the ground. Say honoring the movement on the ground. This is a beginning, not an end. So each of the final speakers have 1 minute.
Thank you. My name is Carlos Spector. I'm an immigration attorney and a member of the board of I'm on the board of the Border Network for Human Rights. What I want to let you know is tomorrow we're putting on a human face of the Remain in Mexico policy. Remain in Mexico means that in order to get in and present your case, you have to fight to come to this jail. The only way you can present your asylum claim is to come here. And the only way you get to come here is if you can show that it's more likely than not that you've been persecuted in Mexico, in one of the most dangerous cities in America Latina. Now, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I am walking over and inviting the press and people of faith and the leadership here to accompany me at 10 o'clock on the Santa Fe Bridge to bring over two Mayan human rights workers who have been forced by the Guatemalan military to leave after murdering 26 of them. And so I'm trying to bring them over tomorrow. They told me they can't bring them in because there's not enough space here. And so the human face of Remain in Mexico has got to go, and it begins tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So it's got to go. Real quickly. Rabbi, real quickly. Where's my rabbi? Ah, there she is. All right, get out of the street. 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 Go ahead, Rabbi.
Every day is a new injury. Every day is a new wound. Sometimes we want a savior. Do you want a savior? I want someone to make everything better. A long time ago in a hot and arid land, even hotter and more arid than this one.
We gotta go.
Okay, we're going.
Yeah, we can keep talking.
I'll keep talking.
We gotta stop moving that way. On the sidewalk.
Okay. A leader of faith wanted to know.
Can we get everyone on the sidewalk, press included?
When's the Messiah gonna come?
Press included, we need you guys on the sidewalk.
And that rabbi said to Elijah, when's the Messiah gonna come? We are hurting. Every day is a new injury. Every day is a new wound. And Elijah said, guess what? The Messiah's already here. She's sitting by the gates of Rome. You can find her there. Ask her when she's coming. And so the rabbi went. And look at her phone.
Please cross at the crosswalk.
I'm only haven't seen Paul. But he was on there? Okay, still. We're good.
I have water.
Sidewalk, please.
Can someone speak up?
I got it.
Hold the line, guys.
Hold the line.
This is winding up, but there may be a little bit.
Sidewalk, please. Keep going. We gotta keep going. Keep going. Let's go. Keep going.
Okay, so we're here with one of the members of Clergy. And can you introduce yourself, tell us why you came today and what you hope will come out of it?
I came today basically because this is a matter of faith for so many of us, whether you have a tradition or just believe, in the humanity of others. We came because we will not be silent about the policies, the violence of this administration. At this detention center right now, there are people having a hunger strike because of the conditions here in this detention center. We are opposing the move to keep asylum seekers in Mexico. Basically, we are here to say we are people of faith, we are people of goodwill, we are people who see this as a moral issue. We are here now, but we will be back here. We worked with the organizers on the ground to see what are the needs of this particular community. We will go to the halls of Congress. We will continue to make our voices heard, to use our bodies, to use our voices, to make sure that these atrocities, that these crimes that these things are stopped.
And for viewers, and any last closing remarks, what would you like to leave people with today?
I would like to leave people with silence is complicity. If you are silent in the face of these atrocities, this immoral actions by this administration and their enablers, silence is complicity. Not everybody can come to El Paso, but you can go to where you are able to and to make your voices heard. If you're able, come and join us when we come back to El Paso, to other cities, in your own cities perhaps, and when we make a call to go to Congress and say, we say no more.
Thank you so much for being here.
Sure thing. Thank you.